right, so today we're going to be taking a look at levels of organization in the biosphere. So this is the beginning of your student notes. It's the top of slide number 1. All right, so in 1969, when man went to the moon, we were finally able to see the moon able to see the Earth from an outside perspective. And Lewis Thomas, who was a writer, said that viewed from the distance of the moon, the astonishing thing about the Earth is that it is alive. So that kind of gave rise to what the heck does that even mean? And how is the Earth, in a scientific sense, a living planet? And how do we study it? Seeing the Earth as an isolated system for the first time gave rise to this idea of thinking of the Earth's life systems as the biosphere. This is slide number 1 at the top. So when biologists discuss life on a global scale, they use the word biosphere. Bio meaning life, sphere meaning the globe. The biosphere basically consists of all of the living and non-living things in our planet. It is this sort of like envelope that surrounds the Earth where all the living things are. All life in every location on Earth is included in the biosphere. Every organism from every kingdom is included in the biosphere. Plants, animals, bacteria, archaea, protists, fungus, I don't care. If it's alive, then it is part of the biosphere. Jurassic Park always says, life will find a way. We have found life in areas that we didn't think life could exist. Like there's bacteria that live in Arctic ice, which is insane, but it's true. So there's that. All right. So the biosphere, again, it is the entire layer, this thin layer of life that surrounds our planet. So, what is ecology? Ecology is when we take a look at the organisms in the biosphere and how do they interact with each other and how do they interact with their environment. So, ecology is the scientific study of those interactions. Between the organisms themselves and, of course, between the organisms and their environment, their physical environment. These interactions produce interdependence. So organisms depend on their physical environment, and in some cases, the physical environment depends on the living organisms. This creates what we call a dynamic biosphere. What that means is that the living part of the biosphere is always changing, the non-living part of the biosphere is always changing, and then, of course, they kind of play off each other. But I said, of this environment, right? Environment, okay, great. What the heck is an environment? The environment of any living thing. If you have something to say, guys, you need to say it because I cannot see the chat when I am sharing my screen. The environment is used to refer to all conditions or factors surrounding an organism. These factors are said to be dynamic, meaning that they are constantly changing, and they are constantly changing and affecting each other. Environmental conditions include biotic and abiotic factors. Okay, so this environment that surrounds the organism is made up of biotic factors, living factors, and it is made up of abiotic factors, non-living factors. Again, that prefix a in front of the word means not or to take away from. So, what are the biotic factors? The biotic factors are any living parts of the environment in which the organisms may interact. When I say living, it doesn't have to be currently living. Like if this rhinoceros just died of old age right now and he was dead, he would be still a biotic factor. If this rhinoceros pooped, that animal waste that he just created would still be a biotic factor because it was the byproduct of a living thing. So biotic factors include animals, plants, microorganisms, dead organisms, animal waste. All of this is considered biotic factors. Okay, they are living parts, or at least once living parts of the environment. So here I have a picture of a pond. Biotic factors may include this turtle, the grass, this dead branch, because again, it used to be a tree, even though it's dead now. I have these birds over here. in the distance. I have the reeds over here. I have some kind of fish right there, maybe a little turtle. I have some little fish down here. All living things, all a part of the biotic factors of this environment. The abiotic factors, and if you are following along with your notes, I believe we are now at the second slide. The abiotic factors are any non living physical component of the area. They are not living and they were never living. They were never alive. They were never part of the living organism. Abiotic factors might include sunlight, temperature, precipitation, wind, elevation, soil composition, rock composition, water, air, humidity, barometric pressure, anything physical that is not living and was never living in the environment is considered an abiotic factor. And again, that prefix a means none or without or removed from. So abiotic, without life. Looking at this picture, same pond. Abiotic factors might include these clouds back here, the water, the air itself. Maybe it's a nice summer day and it's nice and warm. That temperature, it looks like we're maybe in some kind of a marsh. It's probably the air is probably humid. That humidity would be an abiotic factor. Okay, this brings us to like ideas of levels of organization. Again, if you're following along with the notes, we are about halfway down the second slide. Level of organization. So think about how a school is organized, right? We have students and teachers into classrooms. Classrooms organize into a school. The school itself might be organized into a district. Districts are organized into ISDs, etc., and so forth. There's lots of other things that are organized in a hierarchy sort of situation. So just like schools are organized, the biosphere, this little thin layer of life that surrounds the earth, is also organized into different levels. And we looked at them yesterday in yesterday's assignment. Ecologists study any one or more of these various different levels of organization. Here are our ecological levels of organizations. Now, this is not the only level of organization that exists. Like sometimes people that might say organism rather than species, and that's fine. There's a couple of different ones of these that exist. This is the most commonly one used. That's the one that I like to teach. All living things are organized into about 6 levels of ecological organization. We see biosphere at the bottom of this pyramid. It is the largest. It is the most complex. We see species or organism at the top of this pyramid. It is the simplest and smallest and least complex. And the level of organization are again here described from smallest, species, all the way down to the bottom of this pyramid, biosphere, the largest. So let's
Miss
start.
Mike, I gotta ask you a question.
Go ahead. Like if
What if there's a ecosystem where it's only that species?
um there is no ecosystem that exists with only one species because an ecosystem by definition is a collection of communities, and communities are collections of populations. So if it was a single species area, we would just call it a population. We would not call it an ecosystem. We would just call it a population, just so you know. Okay, so species. If I have a group of individuals that are genetically related and can produce fertile offspring, I have a species. So, like all of the white-tailed deer, I don't care if it's here in Michigan. I don't care if it's in California, maybe in Russia somewhere. They're all white-tailed deer. If I got them together, they might be like, "Hey, how you doing?" And they might make babies, and those babies can make other babies. So you can make fertile offspring. Individuals are not members of the same species if they cannot produce fertile offspring. So a lot of times people may be like, "Well, what about a liger? What about a mule?" Things like that. Well, if you get a lion and a tiger together, they're similar enough where they can make an offspring, but ligers, the cannot reproduce. Their sex organs simply don't work. Like they're not able to reproduce themselves, therefore they are not a species. So the defining characteristic of a species is that they are able to interbreed with each other and make fertile young. here I see several species. I have this redfish species, bluefish species. I see dogs. I see bees. I see these kind of pink-ish purple coneflowers. I see these ibex. Maybe the grass is a species. These tree might be a different species, etc. Okay, so all of these are individual different species. So that leads us to this idea of a population. Oops, did not mean to do that. I was trying to turn the controls off. Um, So, a population is a group of individuals that belong to the same species and live in the same area. So, remember how I was talking about white-tailed deer before, and I said, well, the white-tailed deer in Michigan, the white-tailed deer in California, the white-tailed deer in Russia. Those are three different population of white-tailed deer, because the white-tailed deer in Michigan aren't going to fly to California to breed. They're going to breed with whatever's here. A population is a group of individuals of the same species that live in the same area that becomes a breeding population. Now, there can be more than one population of a species living in any particular area, but a single population lives in a particular area. So, for example, the population of gray squirrels in New York are totally different than a population of gray squirrels in England. They're still gray squirrels, they're the same species, but they're different populations, because the defining characteristic of a population is that they have to live in the same area. So here I have a population of these disc fish, of these green fish, of these other fish, of this shark, and it's kind of, I don't know if those are supposed to be mora or baby sharks, to be honest. I have this population of different corals here, etc. You get the idea. So, what the heck is a community then? Well, we've kind of talked about this for the last few days. A community are all the populations of a different species that live together in the same area, and they interact with each other. So again, thinking of that white-tailed deer maybe down on Belle Isle, that white-tailed deer on Belle Isle may interact with the grass on Belle Isle. It might interact with some of the trees on Belle Isle. Some of the bugs on Belle Isle may interact with the grass as well. A community is composed only, however, of the biotic factors in an area. We ignore the abiotic factors as part of the community. We do not count abiotic factors as part of a community. Wrong button. So here, different factors in this community may include this grass. It might include the fish, the turtle, and these other little fish. I am not counting the sand. I am not counting the water. I am not counting the air, because those are abiotic factors. Ecosystem. So, what the heck is an ecosystem? Well, an ecosystem is going to include all of the biotic and the abiotic factors in a defined area. An ecosystem is composed of all of it. So, when I look at this picture of the pond, everything I see is part of this pond ecosystem, okay? And again, it is confined to a defined area. So, for example, we might have an ecosystem of, I'm trying to think, like the Rouge River ecosystem, right? That is a area that is defined by the confines of the Rouge River, and then all of the living and non-living things in that area would be considered part of the Rouge River ecosystem. Now, a biome is much bigger. A biome is a whole geographical area, and it is classified according to climate and the species that live there. So, temperature, soil, sunlight, water help to determine what life exists in a particular biome. Biomes contain many different ecosystems, and all those ecosystems interact with each other, which overall make the entire biome more stable. Finally, we have these are the different biomes of the world. So I have wetlands, there's the ocean biome, the temperate forest, the polar regions. These all have temperature, climate, all of these things in common. So they're going to have some commonalities. But each of these individual biomes are made up of individual ecosystems. Finally, we have the biosphere. The biosphere, of course, is a collection of all the biomes. It's the whole living Earth. And these components are constantly interacting to form the environments in which organisms struggle to survive and reproduce. The biosphere contains all of the living and non living things on our planet. So, the stuff in your notes that follow are some questions about the notes that we have gone over, and you guys can complete slides 4 and 5, which are questions, hopefully on your own. Let me pause.